Any way you want to argue it, stats don't lie. With 129 Group 1 wins, Damien Oliver is the greatest jockey this nation has ever produced. He stands alone. There's 3 Melbourne Cups, there's 4 Caulfield Cups, Cox Plates, Golden Slippers, 6 VRC Derbies, 7 VRC Oaks. But sadly for racing fans, it's almost over. This Spring Carnival is his last. Fittingly, it'll end, though, where it all started, in Western Australia at the Perth Summer Carnival. He is the GOAT. I don't know whether he likes being called the GOAT or not. We'll find out. Damien Oliver joins us on The Heart of Racing with myself and Will Freedman. Welcome, Damien.
Thanks for having us on the show, guys.
How does it sit with you, the GOAT?
Starting to get used to it. It was a bit weird at first, but my thoughts of when someone says a goat to me, it's usually memories of a slow horse, but it's a bit more of a common term these days to obviously people have done well. So I'll take it as a good compliment, particularly when your constituents are calling it. It's a nice compliment to have.
You've made this week coming up, the Cup week, your own over the last, 3 decades.
3 decades at least, yeah, 3 and a bit.
And what sort of feeling do you get coming into this week? Has it changed throughout your career, or is there still that same excitement and anticipation?
I'm sure I'll get a bit emotional about it, but there'll be some great memories too, and hopefully I can still do some good things and get some winners would be nice, and go out on a good note would be even better.
Damien, why is it that over the years you've done so well, particularly at the VRC Carnival at Flemington? You know, all those Derby winners, all those Oaks winners, stacks of other winners, the Melbourne Cup winners. What is it about you and Flemington? Is it the Melbourne way of going? Is it the fact that it's the sort of spiritual home?
I suppose it's been a second home for me since I moved to Victoria. I'd spent my apprenticeship all at Flemington. So I've been around there a lot of times. So I feel comfortable there. And then I think just the experience you have there, from a young age, I started riding there. My first Melbourne Cup, I think, when I was 18. So all those good experiences, good and bad, hold you in good stead for your whole career. And, you learn from your experiences and, identifying the right type of horses that you want to get on for the right races. And then just having those experiences in those big races hold you in good stead to, first learn how to ride in them, then learn how to win them and give yourself the best chance of winning them.
And when you talk about getting on the right horses, just for our listeners, just talk us through that process. Particularly, we'll start with the VRC Derby, for instance. When do you start getting a feel of the type of horses you want to get on? Who's in that conversation with you? Is it very much who you sit on, or are you looking everywhere to try and find that potential horse?
Well, sometimes it starts early, and then other times it can start late. You can, as a late 2-year-old, sometimes you can see a potentially staying type of horse that you're looking for a derby, and then sometimes they can just pop up at the last minute. I remember picking up 5.5 Star the week before the race for Anthony Cummings. He won a kind of restricted race in Sydney the week before. He brought him down to Flemington. It was at Caulfield at the time, when I galloped him during the week, and he only won the Saturday before. And I'm thinking, he wanted me to gallop, and I thought, I can't do much with this horse. He's only won last Saturday. It was virtually just to have a feel for him and see that he was fit and healthy and came through the run well. And, he came out and won the Derby and led all the way. So there's many instances. Horse like Reading, I got beat on him in the Vars in the start before and was unlucky, and I pleaded with the owners to keep me on him. I said, look, leave me on him in the Derby. I know there was a lot of other jockeys wanting to get on him. I said, I'll win the Derby on him. He was still a maiden, and I won the Derby on him. And then the year before that, on one of your father's horses, Naturalism, he was unlucky. He was a great horse, but still a bit inexperienced. And, he's probably the best horse in the race, but, we got pocketed on him and I couldn't get out on him and win on him. So all those experiences, good and bad, you learn from.
And then further to that, tell us what it takes to win a Derby from once you're in the barriers. Like, what are the key parts that you're trying to get a horse to do? We all
hear about the short amount of space between the barrier, we see it, and the finish post first time, all of those things. There's an art to it.
Yeah, well, it is, as you know, a very short run to that first turn from the 2,500 metre start at Flemington. Probably, less than 200 metres and usually a big field. I think my personal feeling is the biggest thing is no matter where your horse is, just get it to relax. Switch off for the first half of the race. Don't worry too much about position because you've got to get your horse to conserve their energy. They're only young 3-year-olds, just turned 3. You can't have them doing too much work in the early part of the race and expect them to have some running or full of running left at the end. So that's the most important thing I find.
And obviously the carnival rolls into the Melbourne Cup on the Tuesday. I think I spoke about this on the podcast the other week, and I love, coming up with the quotes that people said at famous times. And Damien, I said one of my most favourite quotes in horse racing was when you won on Doremus and you're coming back and there's the interview and the way you said it, and you said, I just won the Melbourne Cup. The way you said cup, you were sort of screeching it. What did you feel in 95 when Doremus won the Melbourne Cup?
Just like you said, that raw emotion, that was totally unscripted. I didn't even think about saying that, but it just blurted out of me, I mean, anyone, first you dream of riding in a Melbourne Cup, and then once you start to ride in a bit, the next thing is you want to try and win it. And, I come from a racing family, so you think, but in WA, you never think that you're ever going to get to a Melbourne Cup, let alone ride or win in it. But it is the holy grail. And, even the people that don't really follow racing understand about the Melbourne Cup, how big it is. So it's a life-changing experience, and it is it's amazing if you get a chance to achieve it.
Do you remember saying that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Talking on the Melbourne Cup, you've seen the evolution of the Melbourne Cup. I mean, back in the 90s, they were all local trained, and you would have grown up with, ridden these horses throughout their entire career. And now we're seeing a lot more imports arrive. Where does it sit with you? How do you like the direction that the Melbourne Cup's going in, or did you prefer the days back in the 90s?
Yeah, well, look, it's obviously a challenge for an Australian-bred horse or New Zealand-bred horse to win it now. Our breeding is geared more around the sprinter milers. I mean, you look at the Caulfield Cup on the weekend, I think there was 14 internationally bred horses, 1 Kiwi and 3 Aussie-bred horses. And that's just the way our staying races are now. Their stayers are better than ours generally as a whole. We do get the odd exception, but, and our sprinter milers are generally better than theirs. So, that's the way it's gone. Owners and trainers are sourcing horses from more Europe now to try and find those type of horses. Personally, it's probably harder to go out and buy that young horse to look for a Melbourne Cup. But, so many trainers and owners and syndicates are now looking that way to try and find those type of Cup horses.
Are you going to miss it, Damien, particularly the VRC Carnival?
I kind of will. I'm sure. I'm a huge competitor. I love competing, but I won't miss the early mornings or the starving or in the sauna and the aches and pains that the body's starting to feel as an older athlete now. So there's pluses and there's negatives, but it will be difficult to replace that kind of adrenaline rush and competitive side of it that comes with it.
Well, but all that stuff, dieting and all of those things, you're a similar age to me. I've never really had to do it in my life. I look at the jockeys and your whole life would be, what am I putting in my mouth? Can I have this glass of wine on a Saturday night after I win the Derby? How tough is it to maintain your weight like that?
It does become a bit of a way of life. Personally, I try and, 5 days of the week, watch it pretty closely, watch my diet and all that. But 1 or 2 days a week, I have a bit of a letdown. I have a few drinks. I eat what I like. You have to do that a little bit to keep your sanity, but it's kind of a pretty healthy lifestyle if you manage to stay on the horse. And I think after 2 or 3 days of eating or drinking, you're kind of looking to get a little bit healthy again. And you got to give yourself some little mini breaks throughout the year as well, because otherwise you do go a bit crazy.
So what's the go-to? What do you have a blowout on?
Oh, probably like a good Chinese meal on a Saturday night. That's sweet. Maybe it's the MSG. I don't know. Just after being in the sauna and dehydrated. Yeah, I kind of that's something I like. Look forward to.
You were a very accomplished apprentice. Like, this is one thing people don't understand, how hard the work is as an apprentice. And you sort of came over from WA's pretty highly acclaimed anyway. We went straight into Lee and my father's stable, which were going pretty well at that stage. Take us back to how it all began in when you came across from WA and the grind sort of that started from there.
So I came over and I think it was 89 as a 16-year-old kid, left home in WA. My brother had been over a few years earlier to the Freedman family and got a little bit homesick and did okay, but sort of set the path a little bit for me to go. And it was actually just good timing. I still had 2.5 kilos left in my claim. I'd ridden 66 winners, I think about 22 of those in town. So I had a little bit of experience. I knew my way around a little bit, but still pretty raw. And the Freedman stable was really just starting to hit its straps. You know, they had some good young horses coming through, very young, ambitious team of trainers, super competitive as well, which kind of fueled my competitiveness, I suppose. And we just really launched together. They gave me huge support. You know, didn't give me all the picker ride straight away, but gave me great support. And then I think Darren G.O.A.T was the stable rider at the time. It was probably within 6 to 12 months that I took over that job and they threw me in at the deep end. It was sink or swim.
And which was if you go back to a horse within that time, what was the horse that really stuck out that you said, this is the horse?
The first good one.
Yeah, the first one.
Real good one you sat on.
Elevated you.
Well, there was a few. I remember trialling G.O.A.T as an unraced horse, and I thought, oh, what a weapon this is. Mannerism was one.
Because G.O.A.T went Shinsor 3 times, I believe, between that. So
yeah, he won his maiden at Kyneton. The next 7 horses behind him come out and won their next start. And I actually didn't ride him in his maiden. I was suspended. I reckon Darren Beedman rode him. And then they put him in a 1400 at Flemington, his second start, and he got beat. He was a short price favourite. And I said to Lee, I think he's a sprinter, this horse. Let's bring him back in distance. So his third start, they freshened him up a bit, ran him at 1,000 at Sandown. I think he broke the track record. I said, let's put this horse in the Lightning. I think he can win it. As his 4th start in a race, he won the Lightning. Wait for age.
Geez, he was a horse. There was a day, Damien. I remember the year. It was 1995, and G.O.A.T, for some reason, it was a Magic Millions day, and he was running first up at Caulfield, and he'd been a touch out of form. This is 95, and he was 5-1 on the old bookies, backed into 4-1, and then into 7-2. And I remember there was chaos on Magic Millions Day because one bookie couldn't pay. Like the whole race course went. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, absolutely Burko. One guy had to leave his stand and the steward's like proprietary mob had to go up there and settle it. He was that popular, Damien, wasn't he?
He was. Being a big grey, he was a long, lethargic kind of horse till he got on the track, and then he was just a powerhouse. And the name named after a champion soccer player, Italian soccer player, and just his record. He burst onto the scene, winning a Group 1 at his fourth start, and then he won the Triple Crown as a 3-year-old, the Lightning, Oakley Plate, Newmarket, then went up, got beaten, I think, in a race in Sydney, but then won the Galaxy, went on to Queensland. He's just, he's a ripper horse.
Absolutely. What about another one from that era? Is it Mannerism got you that Caulfield Cup? Paris Lane, you backed up the Caulfield Cup. Doremus came along. Super Duper? Yeah,
all great horses. Mannerism, I won a maiden at Kyneton as well. And then Caulfield Cup, obviously. Won a few other Group 1s on Australasian Oaks in Adelaide, and a Group 1 at another Group 1 at Caulfield. Paris Lane, he won us the Caulfield Cup. What was the other one? Super. I didn't have a lot of luck on Super, actually. I think I rode him 3 times, never won on him, and he bled on me one day when I should have won on him.
Darren rode him a lot.
Other sprints. Yeah, but Naturalism was a ripper too. I bit of a love-hate relationship with Naturalism. He was very raw and green when I was riding him as a young horse, and he ran second in the Guineas and the Derby. I kind of got the sack off him, which kind of wasn't it was terrible at the time as an 18-year-old kid losing a ride on a horse like him. Dipman got on him and he won on him, but it kind of just holded my momentum a bit as an 18-year-old and made me realise how fortunate I was. And I probably wasn't quite ready for that kind of opportunity or scrutiny. And then Mick rode him for a while. I got back on him later in his career, and it just probably yeah, it just steadied my career up a little bit because it was all probably happening a little bit too fast at the time.
We're going back into that golden era of the 90s. In recent times, what's a horse in recent times you've ridden that you thought was absolutely outstanding?
Yeah, so I haven't ridden many champions in recent times. So, I mean, some really good horses still. Lingy was another great one for the Freedmans as well. Yeah. She won a Blue Diamond, 1,000 Guineas, a Newmarket as a 3-year-old filly.
Had no luck in the slipper either.
Yeah, wide draw cost her a bit that year, and that was a stellar year that year. Like Charge Forward, Fastnet Rock, and another good horse, a Gaze, that won it. I think I can't quite recall its name, but the first 4 in that, the 5, they were great horses. And yeah, Fiorente was another great horse. Northerly, of course, Doremus. So yeah, so many great horses.
Northerly, yeah. Fiorente, you won the Melbourne Cup on Fiorente. That was 10 years ago, I think, in 2013. When I was watching that race, and I'd backed Fiorente, and I hadn't backed a Cup winner for a long time, and they went to a shot on the corner, and you could just see Damien just moving it forward. And I remember there's about 500 to go, and I was with my mate, and I said, "We've won this." You know, when a horse is moving into
Geez, that's an early crow.
It was an early crow. I've lost a lot. I've lost a lot over the years, but. When do when a horse is moving into it and it's just travelling better than the others, do you ever say that to yourself? Like at 500, do you think I've got these?
No, I hate an early crow. Yeah, when you've been in as long as I have, mate, you just, yeah, you're very anti-early crow. But look, that horse, I did a lot of work with him in his preparation with Gay, because she wanted a Melbourne jockey that could, ride the horse regularly, give her good feedback, and I was fortunate enough to get the ride on him. And I actually hadn't ridden him in a race prior to that Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
I got suspended and missed the Cox Plate ride on him, and my first ride in a race on him was in that Melbourne Cup. But I had such confidence in the horse that I thought he was a great chance. But I knew 2 miles was at the end of his distance range. I thought he was a great 2,000, 2,400 metre horse, and I just had to ride him patiently and time my run on him to get the best out of him. And I just constantly just kept reminding myself during that run and in that race just to be patient and hold your nerve, not to go too soon.
Well, I was celebrating at the 400. I'm glad I didn't know that at the time. I'd have been dying 1,000 deaths.
We've asked this to a few people that have come on the show, jockeys. Can you recall the greatest spray you ever got from a trainer? Like, is there one that sticks out more than others?
Beedman said it was from Clary Connors, who didn't speak.
He gave the send-off.
He just sent him
off
to the jockey's room.
Well, I rode for the Freedman, so I used to cop it of 4 brothers on a weekly basis.
Would they go one after the other? Like you'd talk to one, and then or you'd only get the single spray from one of them that was there?
Usually you get about 4 sets of instructions, so they cover themselves all in each base. But no, look, you know that one that went viral with John Sadler? He was pretty good at giving a spray. It was a bit of a mock-up, but that was I'm not sure if it was a G.O.A.T or he was just he actually wanted to do it. But anyway, John Sadler's pretty good at it normally.
What about your relationship with the punters, Ollie? You've obviously been so popular over the years, and people have backed your horses and coming back to scale. You've enjoyed that interaction?
Yeah, of course. When you've done it for as long as I have, I think 36 years, so you have your ups and downs like anything, and I've copped my fair few sprays over the journey. When I started, it was probably more over the fence just to get real-time feedback. These days, it's brought more through social media, and which I'm not really quite into, so I don't see a lot of that. So I feel for the young kids a little bit more these days that are constantly on their phone sort of looking at that sort of stuff. It must be pretty intense.
Damien, we've got to mention the 2002 Melbourne Cup and obviously the events that occurred there and its history now, and there was a movie made about it. Do you ever look back and think the whole thing was surreal with what happened with Jason winning a Melbourne Cup? They're making movies on it.
Oh, you just couldn't script that sort of thing for it to happen. It was just, it was obviously really a sad time for me. Firstly, losing your brother, and that's my main memory of it, more so, the sadness of losing my brother than actually winning the Cup. Sure, that was a great tribute to him and something I was glad I was able to pull off, particularly when I look back on it now. At the time, it was full of sadness, actually, lose him in that week leading up to the Cup.
And Obviously, racing's in your blood, but does the same thing happen to your father? Do you ever look back with sort of like it's given you everything in life, but it's also taken things away from you, Damien?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the parallels of it, my father was killed in his early 30s. My brother, similar, early 30s. I actually had a really bad fall at Moonee Valley and broke my back in a similar age, so all in our early 30s. And that was just, you couldn't think that something like that could happen. But look, it's a dangerous sport when you go into it. Not many sports have an ambulance follow them around a track while they actually do it.
No.
But there's great rewards and there's great camaraderie amongst the jockeys as well. And the risks when you go into it, but it's inevitable. You're going to have some accidents at times, but fortunately, touch wood, I've been able to get through it okay.
Well, we've sort of gotten into your career. What lies next? Because as people won't understand that, like a trainer, like a jockey, similarly, it controls all of your life.
It's your life.
All the time. It's the breeding. It's the next stock. It's what are you going to occupy your thinking with? Because you will have been so geared towards having racing as the main part of your life.
Yeah, look, I'm going to finish up obviously in Perth in December, about mid-December. I'm having a good family holiday for a few weeks. And then in the new year, I'm starting some work with Entain and Ladbrokes. So that's going to be a starting point for me. I'm looking actually forward to just taking a step back for a little while and enjoying myself, playing a little bit of golf and doing a bit of surfing and, sharing in my kids' sporting journeys a little bit along the way. Girls are netballers and my son's loving his footy at the moment. So that's going to be something I can immerse myself into a little bit. But I'm sure I'll stay involved in racing in some way. And want to sit back and have a look from the outside looking in to see first which direction that might be.
So don't see yourself as a trainer anytime soon.
I'm not sure I want to get fully invested as a trainer, Will. It's pretty full on, as you know, and it's not something you can do part time. And as a jockey, it's nice to be able to give the horse back at the end of the day and let someone else worry about it.
Fair enough.
I got to say, Damien, you'll be good in the media. You're perfectly suited to it. You'll be able to bring an unbelievable perspective to it. Will and I, we've got a long-term plan in place because Channel 9's in the bidding to win the Melbourne Cup rights.
Yeah.
Right? They are. And so Will and I and Damien Oliver, that's the dream team, isn't it?
We'll bring it together.
Maybe Damien wouldn't think so.
Couldn't go wrong, could we?
Everything could go wrong. Hey, Damien, it's a fantastic decision of yours to finish in West Australia. They've named a race after you over there. It slips my mind which one it was. But to go back to West Australia and a victory lap, if you like obviously it's fitting for you.
Yeah, it is great. It's where it's all started for me and gave me my start in racing. So it just felt fitting to me to put something back into it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the season, I was able to do a Melbourne Spring Carnival, which has obviously been great to me too and been my home for a long time. But then to finish it off in Perth just felt right to me.
Damien, before we let people go, we give them some rapid fire. We're going to give him the rapid fire?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the usual stuff. Best horse, biggest rival, everything. Okay, you got to tell us the best horse you ever rode.
Best horse. I can never put it down to one.
Or most talented.
Most talented, okay. Actually, this is a strange one, but I rode a Japan Cup winner, a horse called Zeno Rob Roy. I didn't win the Japan Cup on it. I ran second on it in the Emperor's Cup, but I feel the Japanese horses are so good. He's one that sort of gave me a bit of goosebumps when I rode him.
The biggest thrill you got in racing, the one moment that gave you the biggest?
Probably have to be my first Melbourne Cup on Doremus.
Doremus, yeah, when you just won the Melbourne Cup. Who was your biggest rival?
Probably Stephen King in our early years.
Yeah.
Those early 90s, we were fierce competitors, and yeah, but I've had many over the years, but that's one that sticks out to me in my mind. Yeah.
And which jockey do you think? Obviously, we would say you're the most talented. Outside of yourself, who do you think is the most talented jockey you've come across?
Hard to say. I mean, obviously, all have so many over the years, and all have good strengths. But I mean, you have to probably admire just his talent and the way he looks on a horse and rides. And I haven't ridden against him a lot, but Joe Moreira would probably have to be right up there, I would say.
No, absolutely fantastic. The Magic Man. And Damien, do you have a regret? Is there any regret in your life?
Oh, look, there is some, yeah, but they're the things you learn from. You know, I've made a few mistakes, and you know, been fortunate I've been able to learn from them and still have a good career after it. But you know, no one's perfect, and you do make mistakes, but it's you know, it's how you come back from those things and recover. And I felt like I've done that, and hopefully people remember more so the good things that I've done than the few mistakes that I have made.
And one last one. If you could go back to Damien Oliver, the 16-year-old kid that came across from WA, and say, give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't ride for the Freedmans.
What would that one piece of advice be? One regret is I probably went to Hong Kong to ride as a little bit young. I was in my early 20s when I went there, and it was probably just a bit too soon for me. I think the way that Huey Bowman's done it now, going over when he's a bit older, is perfect timing. So yeah, that's probably one thing, not a little bit of a regret, but something I would have done probably better as far as timing goes for my career.
Well, Damien, you know, as I said earlier, you're a bit younger than me, a couple of years younger, but for my entire life, when I got the form guide out of the newspapers, and obviously in my newspaper career, I was making form guides when I was sports editor of the Courier Mail. D. Oliver's name was in the form guide every Saturday. It's not going to be
weird.
It's going to. I'm telling you now, it's going to be weird. We wish you all the best. No, it is, Damien. It's just like you in Melbourne, you go, what's Oliver riding? And, you know, it's like in Sydney, you look at what's J-Mac riding. We wish you all the best in your media career, like with Entain and Ladbrokes. You'll do a great job there. We wish you all the best for the rest of the carnival. Maybe there's one more Melbourne Cup.
It'd be nice. Let's hope so.
Thanks, Damien.
And with the victory lap in Perth, we hope it goes really well. But most of all, to you and your family, have a good family holiday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
With the summer of tennis right around the corner, Wide World of Sports has every angle covered.
From match highlights, press conferences and every breaking news story, Wide World of Sports is your home of tennis.
So click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing this summer.